Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of On the Mic with Mike. I am your host, Mike Larkin, and joining me today is the beautiful adult star that is Miss Babe West. Babe, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm doing really well out here in Portland, Oregon. It's right around sunset, so I'm happy to be here tonight with such lovely company.
Well, thank you very much. And the feeling is mutual on that front. I am here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where it's been warm, whether it's been a bit windy. But other than that, man, I got to say, it beats being in the snow where I was back in New York and all the coldness. So I got to say, we're both living life.
Oh, for sure. I'm actually my family's out in North Carolina, so not too far from you. And I grew up going down to Myrtle Beach all the time. So
Hey, whenever you're in town, man, the food is on me. We'll get a bite.
it's a date.
Well, first and foremost, you know, me being the pop culture nerd that I am, I got to say, as far as North Carolina, come on and raise up, take your shirt off, twist around your head, spin like a helicopter, Petey Pablo style, man. That song is 20 years old, excuse me. And I'm like, God dang, still holds up to this day.
You're making us feel old.
Hey, I'm not trying to. I just turned 29 this year. And I got to say, being close to the big 3-0, man, it makes you think some things.
Well, 30 is the new 20. And I know some 50 and 60-year-olds living life like they're in their 30s. So,
This is true.
um,
This is true. You make a valid point.
are we even in the future if we're not all fucking somebody's grandpa? Um, anyway.
That's true. I like that. I like your style. Okay.
um, so, yeah, I guess that's a good interlude into what I do for a good chunk of a living.
I
Um,
we'll start it off there. Let's start off just first and foremost. Like I said, I've seen your work. You provide a lot of great content for us consumers, us fans to check out, and you've been killing it in the adult entertainment industry. So I want to ask you, how did you get involved in said industry? Because, like I said, you're killing it, you're doing your thing, and I'm interested to see how you gravitated towards said career.
Well, if anybody did like their hardcore research, and it's not that hard to do, I've been tiptoeing around it for like a decade. Um, so I have been on and off forums, did the Tumblr, did the Reddits, sounding like the kids these days. But no, I've been on image boards for since I turned 18. So then like back in the early aughts, things weren't we didn't have sites like now. And it's funny because when I was discovering pornography, like it was coming out of a very religious background. And so for me, a lot of it was like massage room videos and I'm getting ahead of myself, but like certain stars that little did I know, like 20 years later, I'd be working with them. They would be some of my first paid gigs in the industry for real. So I always had an interest in sexual exploration and like really expanding what I knew about like reckoning what I knew growing up versus what I knew to be true in my life, so to speak. And yeah, I was in theater. I've been on stage my whole life, in and out of the church as well. I won't talk about it too much, but so I've always been in the center of attention or they're gravitating towards the stage, and it kind of called to me.
First and foremost, I will say this. Don't even when it comes to the church, I will say this as someone who is Catholic, I understand, you know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where I mean you go into said field and it's kind of like, whoa, but at the same time, it's like, you know what, only God can judge you. And I also look at it from the stance too, as someone with with someone with the vibrancy as you are, and I put this in the utmost sincerity and respect, man. You're doing theater, you're putting yourself at the forefront. So it's really only apropos that you do something that, you know, really showcases yourself from an internal and external beauty points. I mean, hey, you kind of fit all realms. You're kind of like a Jill of all trades, if you will.
Aw. Well, yeah, I just I have nothing but utmost respect for people of faith and faith in general. But yeah, definitely what we all know to be true is, those teachings can like really hinder us. And so for me, regardless of anything else in my story, a lot of what sex work and being in the porn industry has been for me is like ultimately like I said, reconciling what I grew up with, which was, your body is, the gateway to sin, first of all. And well, here I am sinning on a daily basis, and it tastes so delicious, y'all. Let me let but at my heart, I am a Southern girl that was raised quote unquote right in the church. And my family does know what I do for a living, and they aren't too pleased with it. But I'm having a blast, and it really goes to if you know yourself, right, then you're going to be happy in whatever you're doing. Like I could be pumping gas. Okay. I know myself. I would not be happy pumping gas. In Oregon, it's a joke. Really, in Oregon, we don't pump gas here. And I've been here for a decade almost. And, so I haven't had to pump gas in 10 years. It's kind of nice. But whatever I'm doing, like I know myself, I would only be doing something that makes me happy. And everything I've done in life has been some sort of entertainment and meeting people's needs, right? I used to be in software and I worked for bigger companies, and I was constantly like training and building databases and doing all this nerdy stuff that I could make you go to sleep on. And I remember watching a Thor Johnson video, and it's the one that made him famous, right? He's at work jerking off in his truck. And I was and that's when I knew that I could do this, because I went into the server room where I was at an undisclosed company in Portland, Oregon, and with the door cracked open so that everyone could see that, there was risk. I proceeded to masturbate in my server room and squirt all over the floor. And so and that video, I put it on Pornhub a few years ago, and it got a lot of views, and people love that shit. And so I just kind of like went from there. Really, that's what made my leap. But I do credit Thor Johnson with my inspiration.
First and foremost, Thor Johnson is an amazing talent in the adult entertainment industry. Much love and respect to Thor. But god dang, man, here you are at server room and the nerdiness, man, building software is doing what you do from that standpoint. Major company. Oh, here I am in the server room. Let me just do it. Let me do the deed, if you will, squirting all over the floor. And here you are to where you are now. I got to say, man, but that also really attracts a lot of people and more gravitation towards you. You got the intellect, you got the beauty. There's something about that, man. Again, we talk about the work of art standpoint, and I mentioned the beauty aspect. There's something about you, man, where you look at yourself and then we see the work. It's like, you know what I gotta say? There's a lot of layers to you, and it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, for sure. Thank you. I'll just put it on record though, just in case anybody that used to know me there. I did clean up the fucking floor. They never showed that part on the show, but we did.
I was about to say, you got to clean up after yourself. You know what I'm saying? Of course, you don't want to show that because of the sensual vibes. And all of a sudden, oh, here she is cleaning up the mess. Might I say, mannered? Well, mannered at that. But it's like, nah, to the appeal to the art form, if you will. You can't just clean up the mess. No.
I mean, you get the photos first, and then you always clean up the mess. I'm a lady. But yes, I'm a good sport. Anybody who's worked with me will know I'm happy to sit and pose for the photos. Like, okay.
I've seen your photos. First and foremost, beautiful imagery at that. You take great, beautiful photos, and I look at it from the stance too. You got that engaging smile, and you got that overall thing about you that I like as the photo wise. So I got to say, from an imagery standpoint, you are amazing at that front as well, Miss Babe West.
Oh, thank you. Everybody's body is a work of art. It tells your story, right? Like we're literally like 1 in whatever million. I don't know the statistics, and I'm not one for making up shit on the spot. I'm not good at storytelling like that. Sorry, y'all. But we are very unique. Just think of all the people that it took to get to you, right? And had that not happened, you wouldn't be here. And I don't know. And then our bodies are just There are vessels and they tell our story. And my story is one that I love. It's been a good life and it's not even over. Like I know that 2020 felt like a little bit of a drag for many of us.
Mhm.
Um, but I took it in stride as an opportunity to look at how things were going and go, well, I can work my whole life for other people and be unhappy and stressed out, or I can work for myself and find multiple ways to uphold my income table and really diversify in what I do and spend my time doing things. Yes, they're labor and yes, it's hard, but like doing things that bring me pleasure or joy or opportunities to experience things I've never experienced before. Like I travel to beautiful locations and I have sex. I mean, I'm also modeling and taking photos, and those photos hurt sometimes. Like, I've dove into waterfalls, like glacier waterfalls in the middle of winter, and spent like 3 hours in the snow, like taking tons of photos. But it's fun, and I wouldn't give that up for anything.
First and foremost, don't go chasing waterfalls. And number two, doing it up winter wonderland style. I like it. Yes, I had to put that in there. I mean,
we're not hitting any like copyright.
no. Yeah, no, I'm not going to be playing any Annie Lennox or whoever else sang Winter Wonderland on this show, or Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls TLC style.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I mean, it's one of those things too, like you said, like getting the right shot. And a lot of people don't realize when it comes to said content creators and adult stars and adult films, there's a lot that goes into it, just like, than sitting there being naked having sex. There's getting the right shot and there's getting the right frame for said shot. And like you mentioned, sometimes it can hurt being the position or whatever shot that you're looking to get for said image. There's a lot that goes into it that I myself respect. And a lot of people can see when we see your films and many others. And that really what makes a great film, a great adult film, if you will, for many people to view.
Oh, for sure. There is so much behind the scenes that I don't think your average consumer puts a lot of thought into. I know I didn't really put a lot of thought into it until I started trying to reverse engineer how I would move off of image boards into making, movies for a living. And on that, I did stumble across some websites. Like I said, if people do their history and reverse image search, I'm sure they would find me on sites by various names. And I never speak ill about production houses, but there's definitely places I won't go again. And my earlier experiences in porn were not like stories that I wanted to curate. Like we talk about art, right?
Yeah.
And I do work with tons of production houses, and I'm happy to, and I love them. And I'll run with their story, but often it is a collaborative experience where you may be paying me, but you're paying me for my take on what you're trying to get. Like you tell me the pitches, I'm coming in and I'm catching you fucking your girlfriend when you're supposed to be my husband. And then all of a sudden, somehow I'm supposed to be into her. Well, what you didn't know is you're going to get me choking you and yelling at you like, oh, this is the thing that you fucking did. Like, that was a great scene. I'm specifically referencing one with Miss Monique Leslie, and her and I, oh my God, it's great chemistry. And I think that's another thing that we should go into, that it's not just like timing or opportunity. It's the people you really surround yourself with, and then the people you get to work with and grow from. And what I can say is I have been very fortunate to be partnered with so many fabulous talent back to back to back to back. And it's been nonstop. So I've had the opportunity to grow where other people who are starting off in the industry struggle to connect and build those relationships. And it could be simply because of location, right? Like if you're in the Midwest or in some tiny town where nobody ever tours at, that is hard. And and I mean, like, I don't shoot here in Portland often. At first, I didn't even know there was talent out here. And so it was just you know, putting myself out and continually like looking for people online and being engaged in what they're doing. Because the community's there.
Exactly. And I also look at it from a stance too. First and foremost, I'm glad that you brought up Monique Leslie. First of all, Monique is an absolute beauty. And like you said, great chemistry between the two of you. And I look at it from a stance too. Like you were talking about the camaraderie factor, not just in the adult industry, but just in general. If you don't have that right camaraderie factor, that bond, I got to say, then why the hell are you into what you're doing? Because that's the great thing about this thing that we call life. We have so many people that come into our lives to be a positive light and really just share so many great relationships and memories and create some more moments. So I got to say, you and Monique, two beauties in your own right. And again, great scene like you mentioned there. But god dang, man, we were talking about the evolution as far as the adult entertainment industry goes. And I look at it from a stance too. Like you're talking about back in the day, you're talking about Thor Johnson, man. For me, as a young man growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s, it's one of those things where you had my first sex teachers, my friends' hot moms, naughty offices, etc. We'll be here all day. It's the fact that we had those sites like Naughty America. Then we went up to like X Videos, X Hamster, excuse me, and RedTube and Pornhub and so many great streaming sites where everybody can buy and we can watch things for free. That it's like, god dang, man, the technological advances over the years to see such adult content and to see where the adult careers flourish, you know?
Yeah. And so I guess I'm trying to think my first website that I came across. I could tell you more about printed media. I was totally a hustler baby. Like it was 100%. Penthouse didn't show up in my and it was all my grandfather's. That's the bad thing, right?
God
it was
dang.
grandpa's naughty stash.
Well, everybody had one of those stashes that you went into, whether do you dirty magazines or just going into on the computer. Everybody had the stash, the quote unquote stash.
Well, you know, the Playboys were kept by the toilet for the gentlemen, I guess. I don't know.
All right, there you go.
I don't know, but those were always around. I grew up with grandparents that they were swingers or something. I don't know what they're, people are dead now. There's no one to ask.
Oh.
They definitely had their parties, and what I can say is that Grandma knew all about that shit. She was too nosy to not know. Like she always knew, like she could always find like the pack of cigarettes when I was a teenager trying to hide something. She fucking knew about the porn stash grandpa had. Like, how could she not? But anyway, that aside, I can't really remember my first porn site. I know it was a pay for site. And it wasn't Jeff's Models, but it was something like that. It was definitely BBW centric. It doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, I stole, I took their bank account information and I stuck it in thinking for some reason that I would know how to cancel the free trial. and I didn't. So that's my first pay for site. Well, my first online site. And then God, I don't even remember when Pornhub became a thing. Like, what was it, 2012?
Around that time, yes, mid 2010s.
Yeah. And so I think the only thing that the tubes really, because I had a model account on X Hamster and built up a big following. And I guess this is like the story of my life in porn, actually, is I go to a platform, I build a following, and I lose that account. My X Hamster account got hacked and I couldn't get it back. And so I then found Pornhub and I was like, well, I'm not going to post anything. I'm just going to watch. And so, all that aside, I don't know, what really, I can't think, like, Pornhub really took the place of things. And then the more content creators I met online through like Tumblr or Twitter or face-to-face interactions through like up here in the Pacific Northwest, we have things like Kink Fest and things. we have a very sex positive culture. And so I would meet creators, and I've always been in the pay for your porn culture. So although I have watched a lot of Pornhub, like I've always been a paid member and those kinds of things. Like I bought in really quickly to the pay for your own porn. And so I don't know. I don't have the kind of experiences other people have when they're like, oh, like, well, I would love to watch. I watch all your shit on this or that. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm happy you do. Cause I don't go to these sites and watch a lot of porn. I watch a lot of people I work with. So yeah.
First and foremost,
I do a lot of research on Pornhub. That's the one thing it is good for. Like if I'm going into a scene, I don't know what I'm going to do, or somebody's ordered some custom content and I'm like, how do I do that? That's what the hubs are great for, right? Like I can binge watch and like eat popcorn and be like, okay, so we're gonna do this.
First and foremost, to add on to that, number one, again, I like your style, and number two, so it's funny because when it comes to Pornhub, there was always that intro for Pornhub, and again, Pop Culture Nerd has come out. Coolio, "Take It to the Hub" was a music video and a song that Coolio did about Pornhub. Have you ever seen "Take It to the Hub"?
No, can't say I have.
All right, you got to see it. It's hilarious. And it's Coolio, man. I'm talking about Coolio, Gangsta's Paradise, Coolio,
Oh yeah.
Fantastic Voyage, Coolio. Oh, anyway. So when it comes to stuff like that, and what's interesting, like you mentioned so eloquently there, when it comes to like sites, I remember as a kid, I don't even know if it's a website as well, but the one that you were talking about, but god dang, man, girlshuntinggirls.com was a thing back in the early mid 2000s, right? So Girls Hunting Girls, the premise of it was you got the two girls in the car, they pick a girl out, off the street, so it's like either one-on-one or threesomes or two-on-two. It's one of those things where it was that type of site that really got me in, I guess, as a 13-year-old to explore the world of porn, if you will. But it's also one of those things where it's just like, god dang, man, like you were talking about, from content creation, from where we are now. I had a thing back in the day where there was a site, I guess I tried to subscribe to it. It had to do with like ass bangers or something. It was very anal oriented for people. You know what I'm saying? Anal oriented ass bangers. Very blunt. So it came in the mail. And I think
porn's not like original, y'all. Like it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. Just blunt and straight to the point. So I subscribed to that and it came in the mail and my mom looked at me. That was the first time I got caught. And first and foremost, it was hilarious because you're trying to explain as a 13-year-old what the hell happened. I don't know. Oops. What do you want me to say? So yeah, it was that type of party as a young man. But like I said, if you explore as you get older and like you start to appreciate more of everything that goes into it from a work standpoint, and I look at it from like this, like I was talking about you and everything that you've accomplished so far in the adult entertainment industry, you got that voluptuosity factor, and I use that term in a lot of the show, the voluptuosity factor. Like we talk about gravitating towards you, it's the voluptuosity factor that also gravitates towards you. Like it shows where, again, the internal and external beauty, but it's like, god dang, man, boom, I'm zoomed in on you, babe.
You're making me blush here. Stop.
Hey, it's the truth. It's the truth. And I always put that out there because that's what's very sexual about the woman and what's very beautiful about the woman, because we're talking about work of art. And I don't know if it's a made up word, but I always use the term the voluptuosity factor because it doesn't matter. Like you were talking about BBW's big, beautiful women. We all come in different shapes and sizes. So, I mean, for me, didn't matter what you were giving me. As long as you give me a beautiful woman and some good company, that being the company of an adult site, I'm there. And that applies to any dates in real life as well. So, I mean, hey, good company, good times, great memories. It's a thing of the past and it's a thing of the future and it's a thing of the present. So boom, enjoy yourself,
I think you hit the dollar on the nose there. It's not like we're going anywhere. Like I people are like, well, how long are you going to do this for? And I'm like, what do you mean? And that's kind of how I chose my name too, because I got a lot of, having done cam modeling, having been on Reddit, having been all over Backpage and various other places, selling my ass all over the internet. Like, hey, you want to see me? Sure, we can do that. And before I go too far, let me clarify. One of my earliest like role models was Annie Sprinkle, and I remember, and I can't remember if it's I want to say it was a Hustler. Lord bless Larry Flint, right? Mm-hmm. That man took a bullet for us, but among so many other things. But so I saw this photo of Annie Sprinkle, and if y'all don't know who she is, go Google her. But this woman is a saint. and she traveled the United States with the speculum and a big fucking light, like the obstetrician lights. And a speculum is that device when you go into the female doctor and they open up your vagina so they can see into the cervix. I know, lovely shit, right? But my whole point to this, though, is she traveled the United States through the 70s and 80s, letting people just look at her. And what was striking about these photos in the back of this dirty magazine when I'm like, 13, 12 years old, is that there were men and women lined up out the door in Kansas City, Missouri to see this woman's vagina. Like, that's all they want to do. They didn't even get to touch it. They wanted to see it because of all the other things. Like if you, it's unique, you being Catholic, you'd understand. But religion brings its own kind of repression and the lack of technology and the lack of ability to share information. Like now we see naked bodies all the time, anytime we want to, whether we're paying for it or whether they're just like forcing it on us. It's all there. But that's new. And I think the millennial generation's the first one that got to see the coming of age, if you will, of that rapid information and how culture can change. And for me, it was Annie Sprinkle in the back of a porno mag, traveling the country, letting people have access to her body and defining how she was making money, but also educating and caring for people and knowing that it was a need that needed to be filled. And there's other greats like Jo Weldon. I think she's up in New York. She's a burlesque beauty, and she's a well-known sex worker and sex workers' rights advocate. And these women, like, I caught glimpses of them in magazines, and I would then be able to grab glimpses of them through sites that didn't even exist after a few years, right? Like, you go look for them and they're no longer there. And it wasn't until really recently that I was able to articulate what these women meant to me. And I'm getting to that point now that I've given you the history. So when I chose my name, Babe West, there's this movie star, Mae West. She spanned Hollywood for 7 decades. And she was hot and sexy well into her 70s. And she worked with people, didn't matter what the law was. If you were a handsome fella and she wanted to kiss you, she was going to kiss you, whether it was legal to kiss you on the silver screen or not. And she was just really phenomenal, a grade A fucking broad. And so Mae West, Babe West, it's timeless. It's not something I'm going to age out of. So people were like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? When are you going to get over this? Are you going to keep on dancing? What are you going to do? And I'm like, well, what if I don't quit doing the thing I do and find a way to make it work for me? And that's really where Babe West came from. Like, this willingness to know who I am and that I'm always going to be out there somewhere showing my titties to somebody and hopefully entertaining a crowd. And I don't know. So that's the story, the end, however people end those things.
First and foremost, you went the health route when you were just talking about, everything that you were talking about from the doctor's office and looking at women's vagina. I was still on that. That made me laugh. But no, you gave me, I was about to say, I mean, when we go on these adult websites, you're like, that's a new thing, research purposes only. That's why we go on research purposes only. Goddamn. So, no, I think that's an amazing story. And the fact that you're taking it from such popular figures, and also the fact that you can interpret it many different ways with your name. Like, look at Babe. I got you, Babe. Sonny and Cher. Look at Babe. I'm a babe. So it works. It's also a very confidence boost, and it's also very positive. And it just shows like, hey, I'm a babe. You got that swag on you too. You can incorporate in that realm as well. It's a confidence thing,
It's good branding.
Yeah. Exactly. Sometimes you got to market yourself, and you market yourself very well. And first and foremost, talking about your breasts, man, with the voluptuosity factor. I got to bring this up because, man, I was on your Instagram live the other day, man. I got to say, I have a new appreciation for reading. No, I do, and I love reading, but I have a new appreciation for that. God dang, man, turn the page. It's not just a Bob Seger song. Turn the page, baby. But yes, I did see you poolside on your Instagram live doing your thing as only you can do, Miss Baby West.
Yes, so I've been reading a Stephen King novel. I'm such a I love Stephen King. It's been a lifelong dream to meet him. Who knows? Maybe one of these days I'll be at a book signing on the East Coast. But I don't know. Probably not at this point. He's getting old. I'm getting old. Nah. But no, I love reading too. I always have a book. It's one of the best things. I'll show up to airports early. I'm editing photos. Often I'm in a little corner. I'm so polite about it. Like I don't want anybody to see anything. And so like I'm off in my own little creepy corner doing my little creepy thing and I get everything queued up so I got something done. And then I just read, pop in my headphones so nobody talks to me. And I read. It's not bad.
First and foremost, man, I gotta also say that about it. First and foremost, age ain't nothing but a number. You stop talking about your age, you getting old. You are fine as wine, my beautiful friend. You stop that with your age. But also, I'd like to add to that, man. You talk about Stephen King, man. I gotta ask you about Stephen King because favorite book by him, movies. Obviously, we've had It. We've had the remake of It. We've seen Salem's Lot. We've seen Rose Red. We've seen a lot of good stuff by Stephen King that's been made into movies and TV and whatnot. What's some of your favorite Stephen King stuff?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so my favorite all-time story will always be Desperation, because that whole story and then Richard Bachman's The Regulators, they are some of the freakiest, scariest, hands down, best Stephen King writing, pre, his accident and stuff. His posts, like there's different periods in King also. Not to sound like an uber nerd here, but there is. And what he was dealing with, or some of the elements there that he learned and struggled through come out through his writing. Like if you've ever read Doomickey, it's definitely post-accident Stephen King, and that having to find your way around your injuries and moving forward and not giving up and like all these things like that frustration, and it's such a male perspective that I can't relate to because I'm not, but I did harness Stephen King as a single mom, like trying to figure out like what that perspective is. And he's kind of been like a surrogate father. Him and Kurt Vonnegut were really like my literary surrogate dads, like in thought anyway.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I look at it from the stands too. Like, I'll be honest, when I was in like high school, I don't know how much you were a big fan of him. James Patterson was a big thing because you had the Cross books, and Morgan Freeman was in Kiss the Girls, and he was in Along Came a Spider, which were big books by him. The Cross series, When the Wind Blows, I remember having to read that for like a summer reading for high school because I'm sure a lot of the audience could do. I don't know if you guys had it back in the day, but god dang, man, summer reading, summer loving, summer reading. No, because it's just like, hey, we want you to read a book over the summer, and then we'll talk about it when we get back. And I got to tell you, for when I went to high school in Long Island, New York, that was complete and utter bullshit because we never did that. And I mean, hate to be blunt about it, but we never did, you sons of bitches. But anyway, I digress. It's one of those things where it's like they made us read a book over the summer, and it's great to read because it's the stimulation of the mind and it's telling the story and really opening up our horizons and broadening them, if you will. But it's just like, man, why, if we're going to read them, why don't we talk about it, be about it? But at the same time, it's like it's good for the soul, and it's really important for people to read, and all these youngins coming up to really just be articulate and really get to see some different stories and different genres, if you will. I know I went a little rant about reading, but people go out there and read.
Oh no, for real. So I laugh because my family's in North Carolina.
Yep.
In Rayford, North Carolina, and late 90s, Rayford, outside Fayetteville, it's about an hour, and there wasn't a lot out there. And now there is, of course, as cities develop or whatever, but we used to come in and I made my parents drive an hour just to like let me go do the summer book club. So, well, you're like cursing the reading program. I'm just sitting here going, okay, but like I was the one that literally had to get all the books and had to read them all.
First, that's wonderful, the summer book club. But and see, I would enjoy that because again, it's camaraderie and reading books. But you got to understand, these mofo's, we just read these books and we don't even talk about it. You know what I'm saying? They just want to. They pretty much just told us get out there and read something. Boom, and they kicked us out like that. These motherfuckers. And mind you, I'm not going to say the name of the school, and we'll talk about this afterwards. But the name of the school I went to on Long Island was very prominent and gave us Boomer Esiason and Ralph Macchio, who went to said high school, and Boomer Esiason is all over the effing school because he played in the friggin' NFL and the Super Bowl, for God's sake. So it's one of those things where it's just like we focus a lot on the sports, but I'm just like, these mofos, if we're going to read something, let us read something. Let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? You want us to read and open up our minds, if you will, free our minds, dag nabbit. And it's like, let's talk about something. Let's talk about it and be about it, for God's sake. So yeah, not cursing all reading curriculums, but god dang, man.
Just yours that particular year.
Yeah, man. But hey, that's awesome that you're in summer book club doing it up. And I'm sure that's fun. You get to read everybody's conversing, if you will. So that's going to be a fun time.
I hope everybody at home reads that like, oh no, she was definitely like a sheltered Christian kid. Because I was.
Hey, and you're talking about uber nerd. First and foremost, you're talking about someone who's dabbled into pop culture and likes his music, movies, and what have you. I grew up in the era where the 90s, you have the J14s and the Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and 98 Degrees are all the rage from the pop scene, you know, and you have grunge, and you have a lot of that amazing stuff from the music side of things that we see now in today's world. But it's like, you know, we grew up with this stuff, and it's being aware of our surroundings and really adapting and absorbing everything like a sponge, if you will.
Gosh, the 90s. Isn't it weird how it's all coming back to? I don't know if y'all have seen that on the East Coast, but out here in the Pacific Northwest, all down the West Coast, kids look like they just fell out of like Blossom and Clueless. Really.
Oh my goodness. All we need is friggin' Joey Lawrence, and you know what? And Blossom and all that good stuff. Whoa! And then you got friggin' what was the other one that you just said there? Yes, friggin' Clueless. All we need is Alicia Silverstone and Whatever and As If, and God rest her soul, Brittany Murphy.
I would take her and Brittany Murphy. Like I would take Brittany Murphy back in a heartbeat.
Me too.
Like, could we have her back, please?
So I grew with Brittany Murphy. One thing I love about that movie, and it's so underrated that people don't realize about Clueless. One of my favorite things, the song comes on. We talked about Coolio taking it to the hub, but one of my favorite Coolio songs, Rollin' with the Homies. That was our song. Like he go to the dance, and she's crying over it because they broke up, and then that was our song. Rollin' with the Homies. Yep. Like, you can't beat that. And also, she was Trini on Boy Meets World. She was Topanga's friend in season 3 of Boy Meets World. When she was a little nerdy, but she was cute. She was doing her thing as the weird friend Trini of Danielle Fishel in Boy Meets World. And of course, her role in 8 Mile alongside of Eminem.
God.
Like
services. I said, I'd do anything to have her back. And, you know, she was Luann Platter as well.
True. Yes. Okay. That is very true.
Bringing back home for us Texans.
I love you. So yes, no, I agree with you on that. And it's one of those things where we see a lot of artists and just a lot of people in general that are just gone too soon, man. It's one of those things too. Like with everything that's going on in the world with Britney Spears now, everybody's talking about the hashtag free Britney. It's just like, God dang, you feel so bad for Britney Spears. Oh.
I feel bad for anybody whose entire life has had to be out in front of the public eye and public forum. It's one of the things that when I looked at my own children, I had opportunities to like throw them into modeling, and we did some, and they were good experiences, but I don't feel that that was their primary purpose in life, and you know, quickly directed them to other artistic ventures, because I just, as a person who literally sells their image and has found a way to turn profit on and market on their sexuality, I think that the thing that's unique about it is I completely control that marketability. I own my brand and who I am. So when I see people in the public eye, famous people like Brittany, not to speak specifically about her, but anybody out there having a mental health crisis, having these inequities, parents controlling their estate, things like that, like I always think of things on is the wealth, is the fame, is the fortune, is all that you're gaining worth what you're losing or what you cannot control in your life. In porn, I'm only as big as I go. If I don't want to do a scene, I don't have to do it. And I don't have to be on all the sites. My shit may still get out on all the sites, and that's fine. I am seeding on other things. Like it's cool. I do keep a tab on that, and I'm not mad about it. Because, you know, free press, right? Like just get my name out there, whatever, go. But also I'm still in control of what is out there. There are not scenes that I'm not okay with my name on. I haven't had to do work that I didn't want to do. And so for me, I'm really glad about how I can be in the public and have my face out there forever now, because I've had a lot of control over what I have out there in the public, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
No, absolutely. No, like I said, I'm listening to you say this, and that's very eloquent with everything that's going on. And of course, it's got to be tough being in the public eye. And like I said, dealing with mental health and stuff like that, because it's one of those things where when it comes to mental health, it's very real and it's very unfortunate. But like I said, it's very important to help people and really showcase how life is beautiful and really how life is worth having. And it's just, it's sad to see what she's going through. But I got to say, with what you're talking about with saying no to a scene and doing what you want to do, what's great about it is too, that I also appreciate this, because we were talking about confidence. You know your worth, and you know exactly how you want to portray yourself. And it's beautiful because it's something like that, with the confidence, with the elegance, and with the overall eloquence, if you will. You got the plethora and accoutrement. I'll say the words all day. I'll be here in the dictionary, for God's sake. I digress. But it's one of those things where it's a lot of things that we just encompass right there that showcases the true being that is you. And that's a wonderful thing to showcase.
Oh, well, thank you again. Yeah, and really quick, while we're on those subjects,
Sure.
I think that anybody listening, there always is, you know, the national hotline for suicide prevention, and then if you are a sex worker in the adult film industry or in any aspect of sex work, past or present, there's Pineapple Support, and they provide you know, therapy sessions and people that listen, and judgment-free space for people in all genders and all expressions, and definitely all walks of life. So just, you're never alone. You never have to be alone. And yeah, I do take that aspect of my work very seriously as well, because you are constantly in the public face, even if it's passively, and you don't have to have a big following to make any sort of impact. It's not necessarily how big your audience is. It's, are they listening, and are they sharing your message? And things like mental health, and anybody can have a mental health emergency, like those kinds of things, and destigmatizing that is one of the best things about being a sex worker in general, and making porn. And the other thing I get to talk about a lot is your STI status, and getting tested regularly, and being, you know, forthright and self-invested, and looking at it as self-care, to know what your STI status is. Like, I have fresh tests every time I film, and it's something I hold with pride, because it's my obligation, and my, if you will, my duty to my community as a adult film performer, to make sure that we have safe working conditions. So yeah, since I had that moment, I thought I would take it.
Oh no, beautifully said. I also look at it from a stance too, from like I said, mental health. Talk it out. There's no shame. It's not a weakness. I'll be honest, I've been there myself in the past, and I feel great with the therapy and the resources that I've taken to get where I am. It does help people. And I urge anybody who's having a problem, talk it out. There's in a judgment-free space, like you mentioned, and just really just put the right foot forward and just get yourself in a good place, because it's a wonderful thing when you get into that good place. And god dang man, you were talking about the safety of it as well. That's also very important. Again, it's professionalism. It's when you're working in the environment, the camaraderie, having a great scene, but also being safe at the same time. I'm going to put a little phrase in it. I'm talking about SAS, SAS, safe and spectacular. That's the way you got to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now,
I
so
like that.
hey, it's the truth, man. It spells sass and safe and spectacular. So you got to have the sass, not just sass like sass, but safe and spectacular, man. That's how you got to look at it. It's the abbreviations. It works, and it also sends a good message to people. So that's a plus.
Yeah. I always love what like the BDSM and the kink community comes up with. They always have cute little presentations, and I'm not one for remembering the anagrams or anything, but I like that. SAS.
Yeah. Well, I also, you talk about kinks and stuff. I think how cool is that from the fetish side of things? Like everybody's all unique and everybody has their different preferences. Gets to expand the horizons from the fetish modeling side of things, because everybody has their own niche. Everybody likes a lot of different things, so you get to see and explore what people are into.
Oh, definitely. I I love seeing fetishes, if you will, how they evolve to like the foot fetish community, for example. Early like Elmer, oh, what's his name? I can't remember now, but he's a photographer. I believe he was German, and he he took these striking photos of women in like their stockings and cars, and like, you know, their full bushes there, and it's very still smut, right? What we'd expect to see of porn and mags, but it's foot centric, and kind of how it keeps growing, and it is something I'm into personally, so I guess that's why I'm so personally invested into it. But like it is cool to see mainstream like stockings, and just so much creativity around things. And people will send me requests like balloon popping or foot crushing, or, you know, being a fat girl, they're like, hey, will you eat something? And I'll never do anything that like to me is degrading, so I found creative ways. Like I have tons of cute scenes that people have commissioned of like me feeding other fatties, like, but not like in a again, I never say fatty. Like I love being fat, and I love my body, and I love the story it tells, and I don't ever use fat as a word derogatory. It's just nothing more than a descriptor. Do you have excess adipose tissue? Check. So but like all this to say, I can't remember what my point was now, but go on.
No, you're fine. It's okay. We're two passionate people. Sometimes we get a little caught up in our thoughts, caught up like Usher. Boom, pop culture reference. I can't stop it. Anyway, I digress. It's one of those things where you look at it from a stance too, like you were talking about kink and uniqueness and getting the imagery of the stockings and everything,
There you go.
those little nuances. But what's
That's
also
what it
very
was.
cool, yes, but what's very cool about it, babe, and I gotta say this, first of all, not using the word fatty, but it's one of those things where it's you're saying it in a positive light, but also at the term, it's what's really cool about it too is you could also make the ph to it and have a little, you know, slang with it. But it's one of those things too as well. And I think I can also relate, because I've said this on a lot of shows as a young man in his teens. Like I said, I love all women. I don't discriminate. I am very much into equality and different shapes and sizes. I love it. And I'll be honest, as a young man, and I can see this as I get into adulthood, a lot of girls that were interested in me were a lot of girls of the bigger size. And I gotta say, there's a lot of cute, bigger size women and plus size women that really encompass this thing that we call life and this thing that we call Earth. And you are included in those sentiments, Miss Babe West. So, I mean, hey, there's a lot of beautiful women out there with bigger hearts in them, and it's wonderful.
So yeah, what's really interesting, so I do burlesque, I do all sorts of drag, I perform, right? And I've been all over the country on stage, and it's lovely because at the end of a show always have some gentleman there that's like, oh, you made a believer out of me, or I didn't realize I was into big girls, or and at first I used to like kind of get taken aback, like, because they'd be like, oh, you're so brave, and I'm like, what's fucking brave about this? Like, you can't pick and choose what body you're gonna wear one day to the next. So what's brave about going out and doing what I feel like? I don't have a choice. I have to perform. It, for me, it's what I was meant to do. I would be doing this no matter what I look like. And but as I kept on meeting people, and all sorts of people, women, men, everybody in between, and just like hearing how, seeing my body doing whatever stupid thing it was, like whether it was smashing a birthday cake or doing a lap dance or a fan dance, or whatever the fuck I was doing, like my body helped them feel better in theirs. And that's really a ministry. that really is a gift, to be able, because all it's been for me is fighting to be who I feel I am. There's never been a closet for me to come out of. The world has never really been satisfied with who I am, in the sense that the world's never satisfied with any of us. There's always some standard telling you that you need to be X, Y, and Z. So if me being me helps you feel better being you, then by all means, I'll go out and be me. I'll be the dumbass. I'll do the things and people going, oh shit, I could never do that. I'll go do that. Because oftentimes when people say, I couldn't do that, what they really mean is they don't know how, or, they wouldn't feel, if they looked like me, they wouldn't feel okay in their skin. And I don't know, I can sit with that uncomfortable. And I live in that uncomfortable. And I get people who will be like so mean, but most people, they're so kind. And I get these really eye-opening letters from men often, but also ladies, because really they're who I make my porn for. Like, I love men. I really do. I love y'all. Y'all are great. Y'all are perfectly fine. But I'm not in it for all the dick. I'm in it for, oh shit, all that pussy. Oh my God. And so when I'm having scenes with women, I talk about it all the time. I do not want to be eating somebody's pussy who doesn't even like eating pussy. Like, if you don't want your pussy yet, I'm not going to eat it, because you're not going to, like, we're not going there. So we're actually having like passionate fucking. And so when I get letters from ladies and they're like, watching your porn makes me more comfortable with my body, or like, I started taking pictures of myself, or I started a Reddit account, or can you follow my Instagram, or my blah, blah, blah. Like, those things are the things that I love the most. Because I mean, you can look at it one of two ways, right? You can look at it as, oh, great, there's more people you're encouraging going off to show their bodies to the world. Woohoo! Yes. Yay, free the tits. Or you can look at it on a deeper level and realize that, like, censorship causes us to question if we're normal, because we don't have anything but our families. And if our families are, shut off, families fail us ultimately 100%, right? So, and even if they didn't, they're only one representation of how you could be, not how you should be. And so we are all looking to just know that we're normal, that we are good, that we are worthy, that we're something worth looking at, and something worth, enjoying. And that's really what I get the most out of, and what I do my porn for is for that.
Beautifully said and very inspiring in your sentiments. And I will say this: when you're talking about those scenes, girl on girl, there I've seen them, so I'm aware of that passion that goes into them. No, like I said, it's an amazing scene. I got to put it out there, man, because people, if you've not seen the scenes with her and girl on girl, and in general, man, it's something, and it's good. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's good, and it's really good.
You
So,
watch my early Girl on Girl, and what I can say is
mhm.
you can tell when there's girls that are not into it versus girls that are totes about it. And I'm just fortunate that I keep doing the Lord's work and, and praying at the church of, Our Lady Yummy. We're just gonna stop there. I can't.
Our
I'm going to
lady,
hell.
our lady, yummy. I was
We're just gonna stop.
Hey man, I was about to say once you started saying "woo, free the tits," I'm like, I was like, okay, that's very true. And it's very blunt saying, but I'm like, all right, I've never heard it like put like that. Like, woo, free the tits. I'm like, okay, very blunt, but god dang, man, hell.
Either an evangelist or we're either recruiting or we're doing just like I always tell people I'm doing the Lord's work, because really, like, I do believe sincerely in sexual healing, and I do think that there's a lot of power and liberation that comes from bringing yourself pleasure and enjoying the sex you're having, and I try to capture that sincerely on screen. And as I grow, one of the things that I really plan to do is branch out in like my like, okay, it sounds funny, but like my parody porn and all my other, I have a fuck ton of ideas, and I have to do them. And so I'll do them. So what I hope is that as I continue to create these things that are in my head and bring them to life, and find amazing talent to help suss out my wet dreams, that people like you continue to show up and support that, wherever I may be. So,
Hey,
yeah.
you've got my support, and I got to say, when you're talking about your wet dreams, the star of the Liquid Dreams, O Town, taking it back to '01, it's very apropos. And then, yo, man, you're talking about, talking about you believe in sexual healing. If Marvin Gaye saying "Let's make love tonight," wake up, wake up. I mean, come on, that's a very apropos. And make love, not war. It's very, very apropos. It's a very much of a thing.
Oh, Marvin Gaye.
Yep.
I miss my old vinyls.
Hey,
You and my grandma would have gotten along.
hey, I'll be honest. Well, as someone who his own self is all about spreading positivity and uplifting and encouraging, love is the most important thing. And to quote Jonathan Turner in Boy Meets World, love is what makes sex worth having. Boom. That's something, life lessons right there, man.
Yes.
And also, I will say this: I have to ask you about modeling as well. Because the one thing I haven't mentioned with modeling, like when I was a kid, like we had your Tyra Bankses, you have your Naomi Campbell's, Michael Jackson, "Keep It in the Closet" music video, baby, and you have all these people that come from that time. We've seen America's Next Top Model in the plus size modeling game. We've seen Ashley Graham and so many beautiful women there. Like look at Nia Jax, who's in the WWE now, the cousin of The Rock, start out in plus size modeling. It's like goddamn, man, the modeling scene, man. We have so many beautiful covers, beautiful ladies. It's just great to see that aspect as well flourishing from the modeling side of things, and especially cam modeling too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's so many platforms, like just always be creating, right? If it sounds silly, but yeah, if you can have a camera rolling, there's an audience. And I think that's like one of the things that technology has really brought to us all. Like it doesn't matter where you are, what your industry is, like you can be doing it too. And I know that there's various forms of modeling. Like I've done runways, which are completely different when you walk for fashion shows than when you're sitting with a photographer for like 2 hour sets versus 6 hour sets. It just really depends. But I hope that anybody this day and age knows that they can do it themselves as well. And two things. So I'm glad that there's so much visibility for people of all body sizes. Like actual body diversity is becoming a thing. It's not quite there, but it's becoming a thing. And I always think back to like the original Glow girls, Matilda the Hun and Roxy Astor, and I remember watching Glow with my auntie, and there were reruns, of course, by then. But just looking at Matilda the Hun and seeing like this big badass woman on stage, and I hadn't seen people like that before. And even in wrestling, like it was still years before we had China, or so you know, it there's actual representation, and we're getting there, and with body diversity and just seeing a variety of different people rocking their shit. And we know we're all sexy now. It's not just Prince telling us it. And yeah, it's a good world to be in some aspects these days, don't you think?
Agreed wholeheartedly. I mean, and you're talking about Glow from the 80s where we had Hollywood and so many people. Ivory went on to be in the WWF, was on the original Glow, and what we've had recently with the Netflix. I got to say, China is another one that stood out. Wrestling men, wrestling women, one of my personal favorites. And I got to say right now, if anybody has not seen The Dark Side of the Ring, talking about China, I got to say right now, it's a sad story, but we get to see how much she accomplished in the world of professional wrestling in general. I don't know if you've seen it yet, though.
Yeah, she was like I said, there wasn't a lot of representation, and she was the earliest like female well-known wrestler, and I had all her shirts. And at my middle school, I think I was like in 6th grade, and I wore that shirt to our pictures that year. Yeah, it was great. My parents were so thrilled.
Ninth wonder of the world, you got China being a part of DX. 2 words for you, suck it, with Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Hey, when I was a kid, I'm going to say this right now, I was a big Mick Foley fan, still am to this day. I had the smiley face with the Mankind mask, and it said, "Have a nice day" on the shirt. And I took my 8th grade photo with that shirt on, and it was great. My dad was like, "You can't wear that." I'm like, "It's Mick Foley. Like, come on, man. It's Mick Foley representing Long Island, New York. Have a nice day." I'm talking about Mankind, dude, loving Cactus Jack. I'm representing hometown, baby. But no, I digress. It's one of those things where, like, if you wear those type of shirts at school, it's just like, what? And the same, like, if you wore an Austin 316 t-shirt to school and everybody looking at you weird because you got Austin 316.
I know, right? Like, oh my gosh, my Austin 360 break.
Okay, it's one of the most iconic promos in wrestling history. Talk about songs, talk about John 316. Austin 316 says, "I just whipped your ass." What? Like, how can you do that?
Oh my God, yes. Okay, so one last little thing on wrestling, bringing it back over to Glow. So I was fortunate enough a few years ago to take some wrestling workshops with Roxy Astor herself. Mm-hmm. And she's still active, and her daughter is active up here in the Pacific Northwest. I don't know if you know that.
I've heard. I've actually am friends with Roxy Astor on Facebook. I've seen some of her posts, so yes.
Okay, awesome. So you all know, like, she's been, at least pre-pandemic, was really trying to bring like that whole Glow aspect back, like in real world. And then out here in the Pacific Northwest, we have like Blue Collar Wrestling and a few other groups. But our prominent one here in Portland, if I'm not mistaken, is Blue Collar Wrestling. And so it is pretty cool to see how, like, it's not just some weird subculture like it was when I was in middle school. Wrestling's actually very normalized, mainstream, and respectable. I mean, you know, depends who you talk to, I guess, but it isn't just something that I've always thought that I was trailer trash, because like I grew up in a trailer park, and you know, like, people, I kind of looked like the duck everybody kept on talking about. So it's nice that it isn't just that anymore. It's you can go anywhere and you'll see like white collars and blue collars just talk, you know, it's a sport, right? Like it's an
art form.
Fucking American or something like that. I don't know. I didn't want to go all like,
no, you're right.
4th of July or something, but no, it is. Yes. It's unique culture, really. It truly is. And I don't know. It's really cool to see.
I mean, if you Oh no, you're cool. If you analyze, dissect, and decipher professional wrestling, it's men and women telling stories with their bodies. And I mean, I live in the Carolinas. It's Flair country, for God's sake. Woo! It's the Hardy Boys. It's Chef and Matt Hardy. Like, I mean, you
Forever.
yes, forever. Oh, and here's the thing: Matt's still doing his thing. He's in All Elite Wrestling, AEW now. Jeff is still in the WWE. Hardy Boys, man, they're both in their 40s, and it's just like, God dang, man, been around for 20 plus years. 20 plus years of the Hardy Boys, still doing it up.
Insane.
And it's
It's so good though. So wrestling, and the other thing that used to be like that I went to when I was little, my grandma took me to the stock show and rodeo, and we saw RuPaul perform doing drag in Austin, Texas. And you know, here we are all these years later, and like RuPaul's like on TV, everything, like rocking the world. And drag isn't just, you know, something on the sidelines anymore. It's a very well respected and well known art form. And I just think it's so cool, right? Like, we literally are able to grow any unique idea into a permanent fixture in our society and culture. And it just takes having passion and networking with like-minded people that want to grow that interest. I mean, we live in a world of cryptocurrency too. Like, don't get me started on that one, but like, yeah, it's really unique how we connect, and we're able to constantly be pushing the boundaries of what we do and see as art. And yeah.
I gotta say, when you talk about the word connect, I will say, Babe West, it's a pleasure and a privilege to connect with you, and it's great to pick your brain and shoot the breeze on a whole lot of plethora of topics, if you will. And I gotta say, round two, I'd love to have you back on the show in the future. I had a blast talking to you tonight, man. You're an eloquent and you're a beautiful human being, and I really enjoyed this conversation.
Well, you know where to find me. And for anybody who doesn't, they can always go to thebabewest.com and see all my things. And I really appreciate y'all. And I look forward to seeing this later.
Hey, I look forward to working with you again too, and I look forward to seeing more of your content. People, follow Babe West on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I mean that with the utmost sincere respect, for real, for real. We got shots, we got content that Babe West only you can do, as only as you can look. This Babe West BW, if you will, TBW, the Babe West on all forms of social media. Babe, do you have any final words for the people listening and been supporting you since day one? Any final words to the people, Babe?
Oh, those people from day one. Yeah, thanks for continuing to show up. I told you I would, and I am. So keep showing up, because we're doing things, baby. We're going places. It's always a wave when you're hanging out with me, and I wouldn't be here without any of y'all.
Final words: beauty, strength, and dominance, the three key elements that make women the work of art that they are. And Babe West, I include you in those sentiments. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Well, thank you.